We heard from the book of Proverbs at the top of the hour, but I could do with some more wisdom, honestly. This is from Proverbs chapter 30, verses 18 and 19. There are three things that are too amazing for me, four that I do not understand. The way of the eagle in the sky, the way of the snake on a rock, the way of a ship on the high seas, and the way of a man with a young woman. Honestly, I don't care about the first three, but a fascinating introduction to a conversation with John Cowan. John, have you figured out the way of a snake on a rock yet? I'm glad to say I don't have a lot of experiences with snakes.
No, and I've got no interest in the way of boats upon the water. They make me chundrously ill. I'm much more of a land person. But that, yes, number 4 there. By the way, you read that scripture very well. Have you ever thought of doing that
professionally?
Doing that more?
Yeah, no, I'm up for a challenge. As I say, if Proverbs gives me wisdom, bring it on. So
Yes.
need as much as I can get. But I mean, it is an interesting one. And even apparently the wisest man who's ever lived couldn't figure out women. I think at least he's honest, isn't he?
Yes. And gosh, he had the opportunities, the multiple opportunities to figure them out if you do them as regards his number of wives and concubines. But one of the great mysteries in my own life is, how did I end up with such a classy woman as my wife? Naomi's wonderful. I count it as one of my life's greatest blessings, but it is a mystery. And, for most of our courtship, and I think that's a lovely old-fashioned word,
Yep.
Naomi was down in Timaru, and I was back up in Auckland,
Mm-hmm.
and we had what they call in the armed forces, and not that either of us were in the armed forces, but they call it in the army an LDJSR, a long-distance Joker-Sheila relationship.
Okay.
Where we transacted it with very infrequent visits, but lots and lots of letters and phone calls. And I've got a shoebox of letters that she wrote to me.
Wow.
And she has all of mine tucked away somewhere, because we wrote every day.
My goodness.
On some occasions, twice a day. It was the last year, I think, that New Zealand Post actually made a profit, and it was entirely based on the stamps that we were gumming onto our letters. Now, letters, when you compare it with Skype or phone calls, or especially meeting face to face, they're an incredibly narrow bandwidth form of communication.
Yep.
You can only squeeze a little bit of meaning and communication into a letter, but when you do it, I think I write a pretty good letter, actually. And
well, you must have. You tricked her into marrying you, right?
What she did.
Yeah,
she did.
The
it was a very valuable part of our relationship. These deep, profound connections we established through letters. And we were able to let each other know a lot about each other, which meant we didn't have to waste a lot of time talking when we actually did meet up. But, it was a special time in our relationship, that written communication. And Naomi will still say, "John, I will always miss that false impression I had of you."
She doesn't want you to go to Timaru this time, and perhaps you just write letters to
maybe we'd bring
some
better
excitement back into your marriage. I think the thing with letters, and this is different than text, because texts are very narrow as well and are open to much misinterpretation.
Dangerous, in fact. Yeah,
exactly. But letters you can spend a bit more time on. You can cultivate them a bit more. You can go, oh no, screw it up, throw it over your shoulder, and start again sometimes. And still until you think you've got the words just right.
Yeah. Even emails sort of incline you to be a little bit more hasty in your composition. But when you're actually got ink on your fingers from a fountain pen and a pad in front of you, and there's no time constraint, and you can actually compose something, I think it taps into something that encourages it. But so that was in our relationship, but I know that a lot of relationships don't have that, and apparently don't need that. Communication and discovering the other person, it's an important part of our relationship. But for a lot of people, they fall in love first and then discover who they've fallen in love with. There's this unconscious click that people have before the data is gathered. This eyes meeting across a crowded room. It's a reality for some people.
Is this real, do you think? I mean, I was saying beforehand, hopeless romantic John Cowan, but love at first sight, and let's figure out the details later. You think this is real?
I believe it. Yep, it's real. Not for everyone. Maybe younger people these days are taking a more slower road to relationships. I don't know.
Love at first sight to be followed up by social media investigation.
Yeah. I mean, bit of stalking, bit of checking back through for old Twitter posts and Facebook pages and
Exactly.
things after
Yeah.
you've already swiped right on Tinder. But um, so yeah, I can't say too much. I know much about the technology of modern courtship, but I do know that there is this mysterious, unconscious click that seems to happen,
Okay.
and what drew them together. And of course, there's hormone fizz. There is a sort of a predisposition usually for about half the planet to be attracted to the other half of the planet, and vice versa. That's the general way it often works, but it's notoriously generalized. It's very non-specific and unfussy. So why is it that one particular person at a time, anyway, lights up in someone's radar as a candidate for intense attention? This is this thing that Solomon wondered. Millions of books and romance stories and movies and
terrible movies, yeah.
Terrible movies, Hallmark movies. They prove that this is a topic of intense fascination for people, but I haven't seen too many actual hard facts shake out of it. I've seen some theories. One theory I saw is that we are particularly drawn to the smell of someone whose immune system complements our own. Somehow our nose is able to pick up that a person is a potential mate, and because their immune system will work in with ours to create offspring that will somehow be stronger, which means,
I'm not sure how that works on social media, but I have got this image of you rubbing the letter under your armpit before you chucked it in an envelope and sent it to Naomi, just to make sure she got your pheromones.
Maybe it was the little drips of saliva as I was writing the letter. I have no idea, but that obviously couldn't work too well in our relationship. But it sounds an incredibly dull reason. Honey, I married you because you smelled right. But another psychologist I heard said that if you put a bunch of men and women in a room, just randomly, and allow them to mingle and chat and small talk, they will tend to gravitate and form pairs.
Okay.
And then if the psychologist says that if you then analyze those couples that have formed up, you'll discover that they're similarly damaged, that their psyches will have similar bruises and things in their past that have wounded them in a similar way. And somehow they sense that through small talk and social interaction.
And smell.
And I don't know whether that's true or not. I think psychologists are desperate to publish something.
It does sound like a great idea for social media. Oh no, they've done it already, right? There's a Love Island. Let's put ridiculously attractive people on the same island, turn on the cameras and see what happens. I mean, it isn't rocket science. It's pure biology.
That's right. I mean, you can watch this happen anywhere where people are mixing together. If you just you can see that some people draw to it. Look, I lead the cycling group, and I know of 3 couples that have now paired up as a result. And these are older people, far more sense than teenagers.
Yeah.
And so it's just the way that people they like the way that they ride their bike or something. I don't know.
The way that they look in lycra, which again seems counterintuitive, but perhaps it's the pheromones that they give off as they're working up a sweat.
There's lots of that opportunity from smell thing again. Hey, another marriage course I went to, they taught us something called the imago therapy, where they said that we are drawn to someone who is a combination, a synthesis of our mother and our father.
Okay.
And we're drawn to them because somehow they are going to complete our growing up, complete our maturation. And this just confirms for me that psychologists, they need to get out more.
They do. Seriously. I mean, that seems like the weirdest reason ever to get married to somebody is because they remind you of your mum and dad. I mean, that's Sigmund Freud all over again, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Whisper that in your wife's ear and see how she responds.
Well,
but that's the great thing about being a psychologist. You can make up anything. But anyhow, they're interesting. But however it happens, I'm amazed that couples do find each other and love each other. And I'm amazed at my own great fortune in that department. And surveys have shown, when they've asked people what makes people happy in life, the top billing thing is a happy relationship. An intimate relationship is the thing that contributes most to happiness in life. So whatever the mechanism is, whether it's the smell or Tinder or whatever, I'm just glad it works. But everyone knows this, I think. I just want to leave you on a challenging note. that mechanism only works at the start.
Yeah.
It guides you together. And maybe hormone fizz will then take over and you'll be riding on a wave of infatuation. But that never lasts more than 2 years. And just about every couple can recall a time where they wake up and they roll over and their partner is snoring away next to them or blowing their pre-breakfast breath in your face. And you wonder, do I love this person? Do I really? What attracted us? And at that point, they go and roll over, and then you think, no, it's over, it's dead. And apparently, this is almost a universal experience that people, the infatuation burns out, and then it requires that character to kick in, to be conscious and energetic and skillful and sacrificial, and actually making that relationship work. And you transition through that ceiling into something better. Yeah. And look, that's just the optimism I want to hold out to people. It can get better and better, but you can't just rely on those, whatever that initial thing was. It has to grow into something better and deeper and richer. And the good news is it can.
Like good wine and some cheeses, it gets better with age, although sometimes it smells more as it gets older.
This is a very old wineskin that
wine is. John, fantastic wisdom as always. Thanks for being part of the program today.
Oh, my pleasure.